Well, I came across a clip from a Mitch McConnell press conference that truly stunned me because he finally was willing to say something explicitly about Donald Trump that so few Republicans are willing to admit. And that is that if he's going to be talking so much about the southern border, and if Republicans are going to try so aggressively to run on that issue, then shouldn't it be noted that it is Republicans who are to blame for the dead border deal that could have been implemented, could have worked to address some of these issues, is endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, was crafted by Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, and even Mitch McConnell is now willing to admit it was our presidential nominee who is responsible for killing this deal and who seems to want to do nothing to actually make the situation better, just wants to run on it. Here's Mitch McConnell.
We all felt the border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it. So we ended up.
And then he gets to what ended up being passed, which is this foreign aid package we've already talked so much about. Now, I'll get to Joe Biden in just a second here, mocking Trump. That's sort of a separate thing I just wanted to include in this segment. It's a good moment. Then we'll get back to Mitch McConnell. But first, to respond to that, this is maybe the thing that has been, as my regular viewers know, getting me the most riled up, because on some subjects, like for example, reproductive right, there is so much to be outraged about when it comes to this political moment relating to that. The public perception, though, matches the reality, meaning the majority of Americans get that Republicans are responsible for causing this harm. And we're seeing electorally voters correctly assess what the option is that they should go with to get back their rights and then protect their rights in the states that haven't stripped them away yet. So in that sense, while the reality on the ground is deeply upsetting, the political assessment makes more sense, because you think bad thing happening by Republicans, public perception reacting accordingly. Okay, that's how politics should work. Here, though, somehow Republicans are benefiting politically on this issue of the southern border and related issues. And that has been egregious in my mind for quite some time, given that as we've gone through, Biden keeps proposing more resources to go to the southern border, and also right when he came to office wanted to address more broadly the immigration system and improving it and making it more effective. And Republicans every step of the way have been uninterested in that conversation. But then more recently, that became even more stark, even more clear that Republicans just want to use this. And I should say not all Republicans, MAGA Republicans especially, just want to use this as an issue to fearmonger about. They want to use it as something that can justify dehumanization that plays into that fear mongering, that gets voters really frightened so that then they go vote for these MAGA Republicans. Donald Trump obviously leading the charge on this. But even setting aside the fact that we reject the way they speak about this subject and the vile rhetoric that is used, if we are having a serious policy conversation about what's going on at the southern border and how we can make improvements, then clearly MAGA Republicans want no part of that. Because when we got this once in a multi-decade program, or a proposal, I should say, to actually start to address some of these long-standing problems, some that are exacerbated right now for numerous reasons, they wanted no part of it, and they obstructed that from getting passed. And Trump directed them to do so. Some Republicans explicitly said they were doing it because they didn't want Biden to get a political win. And now Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper himself, I think as he referred to himself, he is willing to admit that that's the case, that Trump wanted nothing to get done so that he could keep fear-mongering instead of actually allowing for problem solving. And so then getting back to why this upsets me so much and why I've come back to it probably every single day on the show is because when you go out and you talk to people or you analyze the polls, you hear the political discourse, that's not breaking through. You all might feel like, okay, we get it. But that's because you're watching this show. Across most of the media landscape, this conversation's not happening anywhere near enough. And so still, MAGA Republicans are somehow politically advantaged on a subject that they, more than anyone now, are to blame for. Before getting back to Mitch McConnell, just a little pause. You can't have too much Mitch McConnell at once. We know that. Okay. So instead, let's do a little Joe Biden. And he here is mocking Trump. First, he's addressing a serious subject, but then he gets to Trump's selling of Bibles.
Trump bragged how proud he was to get rid of Roe v. Wade over. He took credit for it. He said there has to be punishment for women exercising their reproductive freedom. His words, not mine. He described the Dobbs decision as a miracle. Maybe it's coming from that Bible he's trying to sell. Whoa. I almost wanted to buy one just to see what the hell's in it. Folks, it was no miracle. It was a political deal to get rid of Roe v. Wade. A deal. A political deal he made with the evangelical base of the Republican Party to look past his moral, if they look past his moral and character flaws in exchange for his commitment to appoint justice to the Supreme Court who would overturn Roe.
That's exactly right. And obviously injecting some humor there with the remarks about the Bible. Maybe that's where such a miracle occurs in the one that Trump is selling. And I think it has the Constitution and the something else. Declaration of Independence must be in that Bible that Trump's selling. And of course, he's going to be selling Bibles now, too, after selling all of the other things he's been selling. Now, before I get to this next Mitch McConnell clip, which is really interesting, too, I do just want to say, first off, a little programming note. We are switching over the membership program from Patreon to YouTube. So now, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can just click the join button. It's somewhere down below near the subscribe button, I think. Subscribe, free, join, and you can become a member to support the work that's being done and get the daily bonus show and the main show, we call it, which is just putting together all the videos that get released on the channel in a day, and then you can watch it all at once if that's how you like to consume content, sort of an hour plus of content instead of one video at a time. Plus, like I said, the members only bonus shows. So again, please click the join button if you want to get that exclusive content and support the show. The second thing I wanted to say, though, is that I did a segment recently. It was titled something like MAGA's attacking me, here's my response. And it was me going through negative comments. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who responded to that. We've had so many DMs come in, so many people reaching out through the contact form on the website, and I'm sure the comments as well on the YouTube video. So much positive feedback of people saying, I can't believe that so many MAGA folks have sent you those sorts of messages, which that's the least of it. And I want to make sure that in your feed, you're seeing positive stuff. So one of the things I said was that Twitter DMs are crazy, negative. And so because of that, a bunch of y'all went, some of you, I don't even think were previously necessarily using Twitter a lot and engaging me with there, but specifically went to send me a DM so that in that feed, there were positive statements being made. And that was the sweetest thing ever. And thank you so much for that. I appreciate you all so much. And I got a lot of people saying, please don't quit. Please keep doing it. Don't let the negative feedback discourage you. Just no worries at all. Truly. Like I told you, I do a good job of not really engaging much with those sorts of hate comments. That was just a way to give you all sort of an interaction on camera of me with those comments, but for the most part, that's not something I'm focused on. So I'm not thinking about quitting or anything, but I appreciate all of the absolutely heartfelt and incredible messages you have been sending in because of that segment. With that being said, something less sweet. Here's Mitch McConnell, but he actually does make an interesting point.
Here, but what took so long to get some of these other 8 Republicans persuaded to your position there? Was it the overall nature of this bill and what was lost in that time period for Ukraine?
Well, that's a good question. You already know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake.
Here, but what?
I had never thought of that, to be honest. Very strange. I thought of it within the context of a broader response I've given you all, but by itself, Tucker Carlson, because what have I been saying recently? I don't get it. The opposition to Ukraine. And what I mean is not that I don't agree with it. I obviously don't agree with the opposition. I'm very much for supporting Ukraine. But often, even if I don't agree with an argument, I can articulate to you all what it is that they're arguing and what the logical thread is, even if I think it's going wrong somewhere. But with this Ukraine subject, this hatred, the example we've used a lot is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has this weird hatred, pushes conspiracy theories about Ukraine, obviously isn't for any aid, and has this aggressively pro-Russian stance. And I've been saying to you all, I don't know where that comes from ideologically, other than an alignment with the authoritarianism of Putin, or seeing Putin as a type of strongman they would want in Trump, or sometimes it gets murky after that. So I guess I'll stop there, but kind of nasty stuff you can get into as to what they're possibly thinking. And then the only other thing I've provided to you all is that Biden is really for Ukraine, so they have to be against because they're against everything Biden's for. But what got that ball rolling? It's not a bad point there from one of the most damaging political figures in modern American history, Mitch McConnell, which is Tucker Carlson, for his ideological reasons that seem a little bit more clear, because he is obsessed with the authoritarian project, I guess you could say, in Russia. And that's why he did that weird trip where he's like, look, it's so cheap here. And then we talked about why that argument was absurd. But he may have, while he was still the most influential when he was at Fox and had the highest rated cable news show, he got the ball rolling and getting people thinking that it was the correct MAGA stance to be against Ukraine. And then we've been dealing with that ever since. It's not a bad point. Very interesting. I haven't thought of that. And then the rest of the right-wing media sort of followed suit. But there has to be a larger phenomenon for it to be so strong and so central to now their political endeavor. Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments.